Hi there, my name is Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today we're going to try and fix this PlayStation 4 which is not outputting to the TV. So I've had a wiggle around with the HDMI cable out the back and it doesn't make a difference. It's fully inserted in there. I've checked to make sure it looks clean. I've even put a little bit of deoxit in it just in case it was a bad contact, but it's not doing anything. Yet the PlayStation 4 appears to be okay. It appears to turn on. Doesn't appear to be overheating or anything. The controller syncs up when I did it via USB. So let's take it apart and let's check out the HDMI port or the chip that's feeding the HDMI port. Right, so we're all set up here, so what I have to do is have to take it apart to get the motherboard out. Now, a repair has already been attempted on this, on the HDMI chip, I believe. So it might just need neatening up, but what I will do is I will check the HDMI port with this little tester here, so you can see that this is used for repairing HDMI cables. I bought this years ago and it's got all the numbers there, so we can just plug it in and then we can go between the pins on the actual motherboard and these points here, and that should tell us whether all 19 pins are connected all the way through. Right, so I'm just going to fast forward through this until I get this apart. So first things first, I'm just going to check the HDMI port with my meter on continuity. So for example, if I go to pin 20, that will be the ground. And then if I was to go to pin 1, that's going to be the pin on this side here. And now I can just work my way over. Right, so every one of them is continuity between this gadget here and the actual pins in here on the motherboard. So that says to me that the port itself is going to be okay. Right, let's check out this HDMI chip. Right, so this is the little HDMI chip here and it looks to be in a bit of a sorry state. Also, the filters down below it, so it goes from here through these filters, through these wires, then to the HDMI chip. They don't look too clever either, especially this one here, it looks very burnt. So again, I've just put my meter to continuity. Let's just do a quick test between the pins here and here. See if there's any shorts. So they should be going from here to here. Yeah. Yeah. Can't really get to that one. Can't get to that, or that one. Not sure about that. It's hard to tell because it's so hard to actually get to the pads. Let me try getting right in there. No, something doesn't seem right with that one. So I have got donor PlayStation 4 boards. I might try swapping that one and that one over. Let's just make sure that they're not shorting. I don't think so. No. Right, so this one here just looks to be all over the place. Also, the pin looks damaged up here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put flux around it. I'm going to lift this chip. I might well try to reuse the chip because I have got spare boards, but I don't know whether the chips are good or bad because the boards I've got are all donor boards, they're faulty boards. So I don't know the history of them. Let's take the chip off and then see what's happening with the pads and stuff. And I think I'm going to take off that filter and this one here. Now I've put some Captain tape over here just to protect the other ports because there's quite a lot of plastic up here. And this is going to be quite a thick board, so it's going to take quite a lot of heat to actually get it to do anything. Right, so I'm at 480 degrees Celsius and I'm 5 out of 8. Right, that's one off. and 2 off. I'm just going to try to move these back a little bit. Right. Well, so that came off nice and easy. So now I'm going to get my soldering iron on, and while the board's still hot, I'm going to get some braid, and I'm going to just try to clean up those pads. Come up quite nice, so I'm going to use some IPA now and give it all a good clean, including the old chip. You can see it's all cleaned up. You can see that we have got a missing pad here, but I've looked through the eye loop and I think I might be okay, because I can see a tiny bit of trace going to it, this one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the donor board, I'm going to get some 2 filters off, and I'm going to change the filters. This filter here might well have been okay. I think it's just because I couldn't get to the pads, but I can always keep that in a little bag. But this one here I didn't like the look of because it definitely looked damaged. So let me get 2 filters on here, and then I think what I'm going to do is put a little, I'm going to place the chip, put some flux on it, and I'm actually going to try to just solder this in using my soldering iron. So I'm going to do these via the hot air. And the pads are nice and flat, so the chip should hopefully sit flat. And I'm going to just try to do it by just soldering a point maybe at each corner, and then once it's in place, I'm just going to tap my soldering iron along here with a little bit of solder. There's probably going to be loads of bridges. It doesn't matter if it takes me 45 minutes. I don't care. I'm going to give it a go just with the soldering iron, not using hot air. Right, so let's get the donor board over, and let's get the 2 filters. I'm not sure which way round they're supposed to go, but what I'm going to do is, probably doesn't matter, but I'm just going to keep them in the same orientation. And I might as well just take the correct ones as well. I'm sure it doesn't make a difference. I'm sure they're exactly the same, but I might as well just take them off the same place. Right, I tried to take it off carefully, but then it's just gone. It's just fallen off anywhere. So I'll have to have a very close look through my microscope, see if there's an orientation, see if there's any markings on the top. Right, okay, I didn't muck that one up. I'll put them on first, clean them up, and then look through my microscope. This last one doesn't seem to have any surface tension. I don't know whether because there's not enough solder on there or something. Not sure what's happening there. I'm not happy with that last one. Well, there's definitely solder on the actual legs of it. Right, I'm adding more solder to that because it's not bobbing. Do you know what I mean? It's not floating on the solder. I didn't expect this one to cause me so much bother. A bit of flux on that. There we go. Right, I just needed a little bit of flux. To be fair, I should have put flux on from the beginning. Right, so there it is there, and look at the microscope, you can see that there's no markings on them whatsoever, so it shouldn't make a difference which way around they go. Right, let's just test them now for continuity. Okay, here goes. So first of all, just going to check for shorts. Alright, well that's not good, is it? Well, 100% that's shorting, so let's pop that off. Do you know what? Maybe I put too much solder underneath it. Oh, that looks okay. Oh, the filter itself is shorting. It's very hard to do because the leads are so close to each other, but no, that filter looks faulty. Right, I'm going to go to the other filter that was on here. You know, the one that I wasn't getting a reading on. So this was originally on this place here. Let me get some blue tack. That's better, now it won't be wobbling around everywhere. Right, well this one's testing okay, let's get that 41 back again. So maybe it was the amount of heat I added to it, because I had the heat on that for a long time. Yeah, look at that. So not on the top one. Not on the top one, but on the bottom. Definitely shorting, my leads are not touching each other. Interesting. Right, I'm going to throw that straight in the bin. Right, I'm going to put a bit of flux on it this time. Right, don't need to do any more. Look how quick that one was. Strange how the last one took so long. I know I didn't put flux on it, but you still would have think at that heat for that long that it would have melted all right. But yeah, that one there, straight away, flux, little bit of heat, and it went straight into place. Right, they took a lot longer than I thought they would have done, but that's fine, as long as we get there in the end. So now, let's see now if we've got a short. No. So now I'm just going to go between each one. Do you know what? I can't get a reading. Strange, I can get a reading on every other one. Let me clean it with some IPA. Maybe the solder pads are not quite as big as they were before. Right, I've cleaned my leads, and here, let's see if we can get a reading on this one now. No, I still can't get a reading. Right, I can see the solder pads. All it is just that my little leads here are just a little bit too thick, that's all. Can try doing it at an angle. Do you know what? I'm not convinced about that one, because when I put it in the blue tag, I only checked for a short, I didn't check for continuity. I don't believe there's continuity through there, because there seems to be the same amount of clearance between that and the others. So I still haven't solved this filter issue down here. So I'm going to take this one off, because remember, this was the original one that was on here, and I didn't have continuity when I first all checked it. And then I'm going to take one off the donor board. I don't want to risk that. We haven't even got to the chip yet. That one seems to have lost its lid. So I have to go on to this one now. There we go. Right, let's check this one properly. Right, no shorts, and let's check for continuity. Yeah. Excellent. So this one looks okay. And if you look closer, you can actually see the copper winding there. So it's like a coil. And at the side there. Yay! Excellent. Yeah. And no short. I'm just going to go across the others as well. Perfect. Right, I'm happy that they're okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to line this chip up. Now, as I say, I don't know if this chip is good or bad. And then we'll have to sort out that little track as well. Right, okay, I've just noticed that the leg just popped off this top one here. It was bent, and then when I bent it back, it just came off. But I can still just see a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of metal sticking out the chip there. So I'm just wondering whether it'd be possible to actually get a little bit of wire onto that. So I think I'm going to give it a go. I won't put you through the painful process of watching it. I'll just fast forward through it all, because chances are I'll have to use a different chip. But so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to solder up two of the corners to begin with, and then I'm going to add flux and try to get the rest on. Right, okay, I found that really time consuming. I think if I was doing that again, I would definitely put solder on the pads and just use hot air. The problem is, it looks very big on screen, but getting along inside here is quite hard, and there's not a lot of room, and if I put a smaller tip on my iron, then there's not a lot of heat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if there's any way I can reattach this leg. There's a tiny bit of solder sticking out there. So let me just see if there's any way that I can put a dot of solder on there. I mean, this might be just a massive waste of time. This chip could be faulty. I'm just hoping it was put on wrong.
Non più tra i farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girano, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto Adolgino d'amor, delle belle turbando.
Right, okay, bad news is I can't get that leg reattached whatsoever. There's not enough sticking out of the chip to get any purchase to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this chip off and I'm going to try a chip off the donor, one of the donor boards.
Non più avrai questi bei panacchini, quel cappello leggero galante, quella chioma, quell'aria brillante, quel vermiglio d'onesco color.
Right, that went on a lot easier, but I can see a few little solder bridges, so I'm just going to go across and try to get rid of them.
Quella chioma, quell'aria brillante, non più tra i farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno.
I won't bother cleaning it up yet because I have to now run a wire from this end pin to this little track here. So I'm going to get a little blade, I'm going to scrape back the track so I've got something to get onto. Right, I'm going to try to add some solder to that little track now. Okay, I'm just going to get some tiny enamelled wire. So this is 0.1 of a millimetre. So it's absolutely tiny. So I'm just going to try to scrape it back a little bit. I'm going to try to tin the wire. I'm going to get my soldering iron and hopefully it will just melt away. Now between that and the board there will be enough for it to stick. Then if, for example, if it does work, because I still don't know if this chip is any good, if it does work, then what I can do is put solder mask all over it.
Fra guerrieri può far pacco, Currando stacchi stretto sacco, schioppo in spalla, sciabla a fianco, collo dritto, uso franco, un gran casco, un gran turbante, molto onor, poco cantante, poco cantante, poco cantante. Ed invece del fandango una marcia per il fango, per montagne, per valloni.
That has actually stuck, so if you have a look there, you can see it travels along and then just goes to the end pin. Right, so let me give this a good clean up now with some IPA, and we'll see if this is actually going to work or not. This might be all a massive waste of time. The sensible thing would have been to buy a chip. It just seems a shame when I've got so many donor boards, so I'm hoping that one of them will work. Put that together, pop it in and see if it works. If not, I'll have to solder another chip in. Right, bad news. Look, white lights on, everything's plugged in, still no video available. So, I mean, I'm presuming it's that chip that's faulty, but I don't really know, do I? I'll try another chip. Problem is, it's because of that broken pad, it's not that easy to swap the chips over. Maybe what I can do is just pull the wire ever so slightly away from the chip, but leave it on the board if that's possible. But I've got a feeling when I'm using hot air to change the chip, that wire will probably just disappear anyway. So it does make it slightly harder, especially when I don't know if any of the chips I've got are actually going to be working or not. I suppose in hindsight, because of the missing pad, it probably would be best just to buy one for £10 or £15 from eBay, and then I know that is probably a good chip. But anyway, let's swap over to another one. Good news, I might not necessarily have to change a chip because I've noticed that this leg here is loose, so there might be others. So I'm going to go across every single one and see which ones are a little bit wobbly, and then I'm going to add a bit of solder to them. Right, I found two loose ones, one here and one round here as well. So those two are definitely stuck now, and I've had a close look through the eye loop and there doesn't appear to be any bridges. So I know it looks a little bit, it looks like they're very close here, but when I look really closely I can't see any joins between them. So let's plug it in now and see if it makes any difference. No, still nothing there. So it was just teasing me with those two loose pins. Right, let's get rid of this chip and pop another one in there. Okay, so that's all in place, and again you can see that tiny little wire going to that corner one there. So let's see if this chip's going to work. Right, guess what? It's not working, but a little bit of progress has been made. Listen. So we've definitely got audio. So now I'm wondering if it's dirty contacts or something on the HDMI. Right, let's... I've got a bit of deoxit. I did do this earlier, but when I wiggled it, I thought the sound... no, maybe not. I thought when I wiggled it earlier, the sound sort of came and went a little bit. Right, let's put a little bit of this on, just in case it is dirty contacts. Right, I'm just going to push this in repeatedly. No. Right, so maybe now this is just a bad connection. Maybe one of those wires that goes off to the filters is not soldered, one of the pads is not soldered properly. Don't know. I mean, I have tested the HDMI port, unless, of course, That could be faulty as well. Or maybe the chip's still faulty. Maybe certain pins of the chip are working but not other ones. No. Okay, let's take it apart again. Now, just before taking it apart, I thought I'd pop it into safe boot mode by holding it down for 2 beeps, thinking it might work at a lower resolution. Now, this is interesting. It pops up on the screen to connect your controller up via USB cable, but only for a second. So watch this now, just to show you the 2 beeps here, and then I'll put it on the TV. So that's 1 beep. Still got my finger held down. Now watch this up here. See, it says no video available. That's the 2nd beep. I'm going to let go, and watch this. It will pop up. There you go. Connect the DualShock 4. Do you see that? But only for those split seconds, and now it's gone again. Which is weird. If that was a chip, would that be causing that, I wonder? But now when I wiggle the HDMI cable, it's not doing anything else. Anyway, I know my HDMI cable and stuff's okay because this is the one I'm using all the time on the Xbox. I'm thinking that that chip is faulty. But I will check the soldered connections just in case. But it's just weird how it flashed up there for a second. Right, good news. I found a pin, the 3rd pin along, that's loose. It did take, see, it's the flux kind of helping it stick because you give it a good clean, but still because it's tacky, if it's underneath the pins, I think it kind of helps to keep it down. But everything else I think looks to be okay, including, if you listen here, including this wire that I did there. So that's continuity between the wire all the way over here and the end one there. So let me zoom in to show you this dodgy pin. Okay, so it's the 3rd one along here. 1, 2, 3. Hold on, 1, 2, 3. There you go. It's moving quite a bit actually. So let's try to solder that. Annoyingly, it is in a very bad spot because these filters are right in the way. I think I want to just try to do it using the solder that's already on the pad. Let's see if that will do it. If not, I might have to add some solder. Right, that is definitely stuck now. Definitely stuck. So let's pop it back in, and now let's see if it's going to work. I'm just going to give it a quick clean. Right, I was sure that was going to work, but no. I've still got audio, but no picture whatsoever. So I've only got 1 more chip to try now. I'm starting to wonder if it is a chip fault or not. I wonder if it could be maybe those filters. Mind you, they're testing okay, but I'm only testing for continuity, aren't I? Oh well, let's change the other chip over and see if we're going to be successful on that one. Right, let's give this one a go. Right, surprise, surprise, it's not working. I'm really confused now. I don't know whether it's the chip or it's not the chip. I'm thinking how many chips can be faulty, but at the same time they're all off donor boards. Well, I'm going to do the safe boot thing. Weird thing is this time it's not coming up with no display, it's just not showing anything. Right, let's see what it does now. Right, so that's the 2nd beep. No, nothing. I don't know what to do. I don't know whether to buy a chip or what. I don't really know how to fault find it any further. PlayStation's definitely working, it's just not displaying anything. It's weird, so on this one we haven't got music, but on the last one we had music. Don't know what to do. Well, I'm going to have a think about it and then decide later. Right, okay, it's the next day now, and I'm finding it really hard to believe that 1, 2, 3, 4, and the one in there, 5 chips are faulty. It is possible because they're all off donor boards, and I don't know what these donor boards were made donors for. There might be numerous faults on there. And I don't know what to do. I don't really want to pay for a chip on eBay, wait for it to arrive, if the same thing's going to happen again, because I've already got numerous chips here, hence the reason I haven't thrown them away. Obviously I will have to throw away the one with the missing pin. I mean, I've left this one out here. This was the one that allowed audio through and not sound. So out of all of them, I would say that this chip may well be working. Part of me wonders, when I looked it up online, everybody's saying HDMI port. If you've got audio with no picture, it's a HDMI port. Now, it turns out that I have actually got a HDMI port because I bought it years ago but never fitted it when I think I got the PlayStation from hell, because was it that one? I can't remember. I'm not too sure what I bought this one for, but I definitely got this one here. So it is possible that it could be the HDMI port. The only thing is though, you see me test it for continuity. Now, if it's working on continuity, my theory is that it should be working on the cable, but possibly, I mean, I've wiggled it around, but maybe you need to wiggle it and hold it in that position for a few seconds until it does like the handshake with the TV to make it work. So I don't think it's the HDMI port, but it is possible that it could be. That's what everybody's saying online. So now I know this is silly because obviously I might end up breaking a working PlayStation 4, but this is the PlayStation 4. That was the PlayStation 4 from hell. I don't know if you remember it, but I had to do something to fix the Blu-ray. Hard drive was missing. What else did I have to do? I can't remember. There was a whole list of things I had to do on it. It would have been one that most people would have given up on. But I persevered, and bit by bit I got through every single fault, and this is now working perfectly. So what I am going to do is I am going to take the chip off this one here. As long as they're the same, I can't remember the inside of this, but I'm going to take that chip off and I'm going to put it onto my one to see if it works. If it does, then brilliant. I will get a chip off eBay and I will put it on to this one here. If it doesn't work, I know it's not chip related and I can stop wasting hours and hours upon hours changing the chips over. So that's where we are now. So let's get this board out from here. Right, so I've got the board out, so let's zoom in and get rid of this shield and get this chip off. Right, it came off lovely and easy because it is leaded solder, because I changed it out before. Right, let's pop that onto the faulty board now. Right, that's the good known working chip on there. So there is a possibility that I burnt it when I put it on, but I find that very unlikely. And I've also replaced a wire from the broken trace there. I've checked that broken trace right from the pin on the chip right away to the wire over here, and it's working all right. I've also checked that it's not touching the little ground next to it. So I've lifted the pin slightly and I basically made sure that that wire is not touched anything. Once it's working, if it works, then I can put green UV mask all over it, so there's no danger of that shorting against anything in the future. Right, let's get this back together now, see what's happening. Right, amazingly, it doesn't work. So, it can't be that chip, can it? It must be something else. I'm wondering, could it be the HDMI port? I think I'm going to have another look at that HDMI port, because when I just did the continuity test, I thought that would be okay. Interestingly enough, what I've done is I started it in safe mode, and look, every now and then it will flash up with a red screen here, like that. But it didn't do this normally, this is only in safe mode. So there's definitely some issue. So it might not be the HDMI port or the chip, it might be, for example, those little filters. It could be some components on the other side, because then it goes to components on the other side, like diodes, resistors, etc., before going to the HDMI port. I might try to change those filters next year, you know, rather than, because if it was a HDMI port problem, when I wiggle it here, you think that, so for example now I've wiggled it to a different position and I've still got the red screen. Let's just get in a little bit more. So I'm going to be wiggling it now and holding it in position. Yeah, now I'm holding it in a different position. You think by doing that, if it was just an iffy connection, that would have sorted it. Yeah, let's unplug it and plug it in again. See what it does. Yeah, really weird. I'm going to turn it one more time in safe mode. But at least before, when we did it, we had like a black screen where it came up with connect your PlayStation 1 controller. This time it's a horrible fuzzy red screen. So I've got my finger on the power button. Wait for the 2 beeps, there we go, let go. Now watch. So if anything, I'm going backwards, not forward. Getting really confused what to do. Well, I want to try changing out those filters, see if that makes a difference. Okay, I thought I'd take another closer look at this HDMI port, because it's definitely up at a slight angle. And I have actually found a loose pin. I can't remember exactly where it is now. There you go. Right, that one's loose. Can you see that third one along? I don't want to bend it too much, but basically, there you go. Alright. And there was another one. So, oh, there you go. There, that's loose as well. So, do you know what? I'm wondering after all this if it was just bad pins on here. Now, remember, I did test, very beginning I did test, but I suppose if they're just touching on there, I am going to get continuity, aren't I? And these are touching there. But unless it's a clean connection, because HDMI runs at such a high speed, maybe the connection needs to be perfect. Again, it could be nothing to do with this. Maybe these are loose, but maybe they're still making a contact. Maybe the fault is not that. But I've got to go through it step by step. Can't face changing that other chip anymore. And there's no point anyway, because I've put a known working chip on there. So now, let's put some flux all over this. I'm going to just to try to reflow what's already here. If not, I might have to put a bit of solder on it. Now I've got my, I've changed my soldering tip to a really small one. I'm not sure whether this is going to have enough, whether my iron's going to have enough power in it to actually transfer all the heat into the board. But let's give it a go and see what's happening. Right, now I can see what I'm doing. Let's go over each one. Let's see if we can get them each to silver. Right, okay, well they certainly look a different colour now. I'm just going to have a very close look through the eye loop and then give them each a little wiggle. Okay, you know, through the eye loop it looks really nice. I know it doesn't look great through the lens of the camera, but that might be just the reflections off the flux. But look, nothing's moving anymore. Right, this is the first time now, since I changed the first chip over, that I am hopeful. I was sure it was going to be a chip issue. Right, I'm okay with that. Let's give it a clean and give it another test. Okay, let's get this back over. Come on, this time it has to work. Right, here we go for the 8th time, or whatever it is. This time I am hopeful. Okay, come on now. Please do something. Yes, I'm hopeful. It's gone off. Come on, do something. Right, I can hear music. We've been here before. But I didn't hear music the other time, did I? There's still nothing displaying. Let's give it a wiggle. Ah, so the music's gone now. No, it's back. Oh, what on earth is going on? Is it a HDMI port? Remember, we've been here before with the music. Unplug it, I'm plugging it in again. Oh, losing the will to live on this one. Right, let's try the safe boot. No, it's like we're going backwards because it's not even coming up with the quick flash of connect to DualShock controller. Oh, I suppose I'll have to try and change those filters over. Unless I do just go for a HDMI port repair, take it out and put a new one in, but that's not easy. And also it seems pointless when all the pins are connected and they're all making continuity. That just seems like a silly thing to do. Right, okay, let's get the board out again. Right, I've got my little gadget plugged into here again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go across each pin. I can't show you it completely, but I'm on number 1 now. And I'm wiggling it up and down. And if the continuity breaks, then I know that the HDMI port is dodgy. I've gone across every single one of these and not one of them are moving, and I used quite a bit of force. So it's definitely not flux that's keeping it stuck down. Right, 100% that HDMI port is okay. I'm not changing it out, there's no point, it is okay. Right, I'm kind of losing options of what to do, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out these filters here, because these filters I believe are, there's 4 of them, and I believe that they are for the picture of it. Can't fully remember, but I'm pretty sure on HDMI 4 pairs are to do with... In fact, you know what? I don't need to guess because I've got the paperwork in here. Pretty sure 4 pairs are to do with the picture. So we've got channel 0, channel 1, 2... Oh no, we've only got 3 pairs. 1, 2, 3. Right, okay, well I don't know what's going on, because there's only 3 pairs to do with the picture I believe, so channel 0, 1 and channel 2. Don't quite know why there's 4 filters there if I'm honest with you. Anyway, I'm going to take each of them off and then I'm going to put them on from the working board. Let's see if that makes a difference. going to take them off and I'm going to put them in the same order that they came off. I'm sure it doesn't make a difference, but at least then I know 100%. And obviously the same orientation as well. So these are all going to be the bottom, this is all going to be the top, and they're going to be in the same order on the 40 board. Here goes. Nope, so now we haven't got any music either. What is going on? What is going on here? I'm running out of options because the thing is, now it looks like the filters are not on properly because I haven't got any music this time. Just going to start it in safe boot mode. Well, we haven't had that before. Oh, so inconsistent. You know, if it still had sound and now it did this, I would say I'm getting closer. But look, I haven't got sound now. I mean, I haven't got sound now because it's in safe mode. But I'm not actually getting any closer, am I? So close to giving up now. Can't tell you how long I've spent on this. We'll put it this way, it's the second day now. Yeah, look at that, when you unplug it and plug it in again, it's gone. I don't know what to do. Right, I think I am going to try a few more things. I'm losing the will to live, as you can imagine, on this one, because it's just going on and on and on, and I'm not really making any progress. So what I'm doing now is, I've taken these filters off again. This time I've cleaned the pads, and now I'm going to apply some leaded solder to them. Also, what I've noticed is there's a little capacitor missing from here. So I've scraped it back because it looked like the pad was missing. So I don't know whether that was me messing around or whether it was already like that or not. But if you look at my good board here, if you look here, we've got a capacitor, resistor, 1, 2, 3 capacitors after that. Yeah? So nothing there. I've checked all these ones. These are all exactly the same. And I presume if they're going off to this sort of pin here, maybe these do clean up the signal or something when they get into the chip, I don't know. But anyway, look, so we have capacitor, resistor, 3 capacitors. And if you have a look at this one, we have capacitor, resistor, 2 capacitors. And there is no capacitor. So I've scraped it back, put a bit of solder on it because I'm not really sure if the pad was missing or just dirty or not. And yeah, I'm going to move the capacitor over from that board onto here. So I'm going to put some leaded solder on here, and hopefully it will make a better connection. Right, so we've got nice leaded solder now. I know that looks a mess, but let me clean it up and then it will look okay. The other thing I'm thinking, could it be that this track here, you know, the thing that I've replaced, is not good enough. You know, does that need to be perfect? And maybe by me kind of putting that wire on, the wire might be ever so slightly too thin. I suppose it's a possibility. Or maybe the solder connection's not good enough on it. There we go. You can see that looks okay now. So let's put those back on it, and this time I'm gonna put the capacitor, take the capacitor off my good board and put it on here. Now before I do the capacitor, I am going to pop this back in, put it on the TV just to see if we have sound or anything. I don't want to change everything at once because I haven't actually proved what the fault is, whether it was these or the capacitor. And the answer is no. So let's pop that capacitor in and see if that can make any difference or not. Right, it's time to take off that tiny little capacitor. I really don't think it can be that, but let's give it a go. I'm going to put the airflow right down here. I'm going to go 3 out of 8, because otherwise I'll blow them all away. The airflow up is just not melting. I'm 4 out of 8 now. There we go, I got it. Right, I'll put it in a bit of blue tack because I want to measure it, because I did actually buy myself some little SMD capacitors. The reason I've got it in blue tack is because otherwise it will ping across the room. 10, set it for a split second there, 10 nanofarads. There we go, 10 nanofarads, it's set it for a split second. Keeps moving about in here. Right, I am going to see if I've got one of them. Right, here we go, 10 NF. So let's take one of these out. Now these are the next size up, but it's not going to make a difference because I can just put it on at an angle. There we go, let me zoom in to show you the difference. Right, so my one here is an 0603. Now I haven't got my SMD ruler yet, so I don't actually know what size this is, but you can see 0603. This be 0601 or something? I really don't know. I don't actually know what I don't actually know what those numbers mean. So let's now pop. I think I'm going to put this one, the bigger one, in my board, and I'm going to put this one back on the working. See, I'll put that on at an angle. So let's just see if it's going to make. Yeah, so let's go into there. Now let me just see where that pad goes to. I don't know, I think it's just in parallel with the next one. Yeah, so I'm on top of the capacitor and it shorts into there, and I'm on top there, so they're definitely connected. Right, let's pop that back in. Do I think that's made a difference? No, I don't. But still, it's the only difference I've found so far. Right, unfortunately that didn't work. I'm kind of at a loss now. Don't really know what else to do. I suppose I could change over a few more components. I'm wary now that I might not be able to get my working PlayStation 4. It's not actually mine, it's one I've fixed in the past. I don't personally use it. Obviously I don't want to break one to try and fix another one that's broken. It's just pointless. But I am now really curious about what this could be. Don't really know what else to do, so I'm not going to film anymore because this is my second day of filming now, and it's going to be going on for hours and hours and hours. So I'm not giving up just yet, but I don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take a break for a bit and then come back to it later. As soon as I've got any info that's different, I will of course tell you. Even if I'm not successful, I will of course finish up the video. At least what I'll try and do is get my other PlayStation working again. So I'll be back to this in a little bit. Okay, at least I have got my original PlayStation 4 working again. That's this one here. It's not back together properly yet because I need to use it for measurements to find out the difference between the two here. But what I did is I just put one of the chips back on here that I took off this one. the one I used was the one that allowed the music but didn't have any picture. So I used that one, and I just put some filters back on this one here, and it fired up again straight away. So at least I'm no worse off now, but I still don't know what's wrong with this one here. But I'm glad that I didn't ruin my actual working one, you know, by trying to fix this one. So that's good news. So I'm going to keep working on this now to see if I can find out what the difference is between here and here. Why are we getting this one working and this one's not? If it's not the chip, HDMI's testing okay, and the filters appear to be okay, unless I've damaged them by putting them on there, I'm really at a loss as to what it could be. So I'm going to keep putting some more hours into this and see if I can get to the bottom of it. Right, so a little bit of time has gone past. I feel kind of remotivated now that the other one's working. So I've gone across this faulty one again, the one that we've been spending all the time on, and I have found that this end filter here is shorting. So basically, I don't think I've been paying enough kind of respect to these little filters. So basically, what they are tiny little bits of wire joining the pins together. So if you have a look here, what we have is, let me zoom right in. So we have 4 contacts on the bottom. So it has to short between long ways, between here and here, and this one, yeah? Not across here. Now, when I've been taking them off, a lot of times I've been taking them off at the side here, but that's exactly where the coils off wire are. They're all at the side. So the top is just a very small little lid. You don't actually need the lid to make it work, but obviously it's there to give it a bit of protection. So basically, when I take them off, from now on, I'm always going to take them off this way, because look, that's where it's plastic. If you take it off the other side, then obviously that cable is absolutely minute. That wire is minute. And we're probably talking like hundredths of a millimetre, if that. And by doing it this way, it's very easy to damage it. So now I've been going across various different ones, and for example, on these ones here, well, in fact, all of these, one of these is completely dead, going one side to another. One of them is continuity between here and here, but nothing on that side. And again, on this one, continuity either between here and here or here and here, but not on the other side. So then these coils would not work. Now, I've been taking it a little bit further, and beforehand I was just measuring the coils between the between this side and, let me just get back in focus here, between this side and here. What I've actually been doing is I've been going from the pins on here right the way through to the HDMI port on the other side, because look, from here you have one pin that will go to this side, travel through the coil, go along and through the wire and through the board to the HDMI. I'll show you that in a minute. Likewise, the next one goes to there, through the coil, and then from there to this wire here. And you can see that basically we've got 8 wires in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 going to 8 pins here. So I've been doing a continuity test between each of these ones here right the way through. So it goes through the wires, and the wires come up here. Yeah, can you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then they go to the pins here. So now, if I go, let's do it this way around so you can see it. Hold on. Right, watch this. So if I go on this very last one here, you will see that we've got a short between here and here. Yeah, so this contact here is shortened with this one. So now, that could be the chip, or I'm hoping it's just a filter. I've gone across all the others and they're all okay. And I know there's continuity between, so I can't really see where I'm going here, I think it's that one. Continuity between here and the chip. So I'm going to remove the filter that feeds this one here, and then we're going to have another look at the pads. Hopefully the pads are not shorting. If they're not shorting, we know chances are it's a filter. So that's what we're going to be working on now. This is the most hopeful I've been in a long time in getting this board to work. I wasn't really thinking much about the filters, to be honest with you. So let's remove it. It is this one at the very end here, and we can double check it by going to where the pins go to on the board. Let me just get my head down and have a look. Yeah, it's this side here. So if I go between here and here, we have a short. So let's pop that one off and let's see what's going to happen with it. Right, so let's check out the pads. Excellent, so the pads are not shorting. Now I'm going to actually check out the little filter. So you can just see the filter just in the corner here. Right, that doesn't appear to be short in there. That looks fine. And that looks fine. So that says to me it was probably just to do with maybe I squeezed it down too much and the solder might have shorted together underneath. Maybe I put too much solder on it, even though it does look okay. But anyway, what I'll do is I'll just clean that off with a soldering iron and I'll pop it back on, and I'll make sure I won't press it down. I'll make sure it's just floating on it, and that might be all it needs. Shorting now, but that doesn't mean I've got continuity through to the other side. So now when it's cooled down a little bit more, I'm going to just go between the pins and the other side. Right, so when I go between here and here, it is not shorting, and then when I go on the chip between those two on the chip side, it's not shorting either. And as far as continuity is concerned, it's going to be kind of hard because I am going to be on the ground as well, because I can't get just on the pin on both sides. But if I go between those two there, which is the ground and our pin, and then so I can hear it on there, move along, can't hear it. So now I've moved on, but now if I jump to the next one, you can hear it. So I'm pretty confident that there's continuity between going all the way across now. So now let's get this back together and see if that's made a difference. Right, here we go, I'm just on the kitchen TV. I'm really confident. I'm confident this time. I should have paid more notice to those filters beforehand. Right, so it's turning on there. Is anything going to happen? Oh, yes. 1080p as well. Yes, amazing. Fantastic. Oh. Do you know what? It's not even real excitement, it's relief. Do you know what? I think from the very start it was just that there was a missing pad and the filters. Brilliant. And we got sound. Cannot connect to network, don't care about that. Wow. Yes, fantastic. Right, okay, before I do anything else, I am going to put UV mask on that track before that breaks, you know, that wire that I did. I'm going to clean everything with flux. Clean everything with IPA, and yeah, do the thermal paste and get it all back together. I'm so relieved. I can't tell you how many hours I put into this, but that's great that it's working at 1080p as well. Look, 1080p, 60 Hz, fantastic, brilliant. Okay, do you know what? I'm so glad I persevered with that. Bad filter. So originally it wouldn't have been a bad filter to begin with, because remember I swapped it over from my one. What it is that I probably pressed down on the filter and I splodged the solder underneath it, because think about it, it's a fraction of a millimetre, and then by pushing down on the filter I think the solder's just shorted together, and that's why it wasn't working. So originally it would have been the chip, because I haven't changed the HDMI port, but by me then doing, it was probably faulty filters and a faulty chip, and then when I swapped everything over from my working one, the chip would have been okay because obviously it's working, and the filters were okay, it's just I pushed one down too much, which was shorting. So now in the future what I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to be doing a test from the chip right the way through to the HDMI port, and then that will tell me if the filters are shorting and also if there's continuity going right the way through. So that's going to bring up the filters, showing them as faulty if they're disconnected, if there's no continuity between the coil, and also it will show up if there's a short, either by a solder splodge that's gone, or again if the coil's gone faulty. God, I'm so happy with that. Right, let's get this all finished up. Right, so I've cleaned it all with IPA. Now I'm just going to put a tiny little bit off this UV mask. Just going to spread that around a little bit. Right, so that's covered that track and that wire. So I'm just going to put the UV light on that and let that go off for a good 5 minutes or so. That's starting to skin over nicely, so I'm going to give that another few minutes and then I can change the thermal paste and get this back together, play again, make sure it's definitely all working as it should. Okay, I thought this was going to be the end of the video. The working one, luckily, is still working fine. I've put it all back together, I put thermal paste on, put every single screw in it, turned it on. No video available, I could cry. Oh. So what I'm thinking is maybe when I did the UV mask that maybe I dislodged that tiny wire that I soldered, or I put the shield back over the HDMI chip. I only use a soldering iron, I didn't use heat because I didn't want to affect anything underneath it. But I'm just wondering, have I somehow knocked one of those filters or something again? Honestly, I've never been so close to putting a hammer through this thing. This is my second day on this now. I've had this apart countless times. And now to have to take it apart fully again after doing the thermal paste and everything is just soul destroying. But I've spent so much time on it, I can't just give up on it now. That's not an option. So I'm going to have to take it apart again and I don't know, scrape away that UV mask and see if I can maybe get continuity between that pin and the wire, and then if I can, it means I have to look at those filters yet again. Oh, honestly, this is such a nightmare. Hopefully next time you see this it will be working. Right, yet again it was that last filter that had shorted, so I've looked at it under the microscope and that's it there. So you can see now that we got one wire going from here, wraps around, there's another wire coming off here, so that one must go to that one, and that one must wrap round and end up here. So somewhere along those coil of wire, it doesn't actually look like there's that much wrapped around it. Somewhere along there the two have shorted together. So it could be, I wonder if it's to do with flux and stuff, or more than likely, again, it's probably to do with tweezers, because what I'm probably doing is when I use the tweezers, I might be ever so slightly scraping them, and then maybe they short together. I really don't know. But anyway, I've got to now get another filter off one of the donor boards, pop it on, and hopefully then it will work. At least I've definitely found that this will shorten. So basically it's shorting between this pin here and this pin here, and it shouldn't. It should be just from here to here and here to here, but they're both shorting. Right, okay, now I don't know if you remember before, but remember that I said that I had when I was testing the filters earlier, remember I said that it was like open on one side. So if you have a listen, I've got continuity here. Now if I go between this pin and this pin, you can hear I've got continuity, but look, between here and here there's nothing. Good news is though, it's not shorting, but obviously this is not going to work. But I've been having a really close look at this, and basically I can see that the wire going to this bottom solder pad here is broken. So let me, obviously this is absolutely tiny, but look, can you see this wire here? There. That tiny wire there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to tap it with the soldering iron and see if I can get a connection. Right, okay, it was worth a try, but I can't do it. It was just too small. So what I'm going to do is just get another filter off the donor board, pop it on there. Hopefully that will be it. Job done. Here we go. At long last, I have success. Here it is. And let me turn on this one as well. I'll show you that one working in a minute. That's the original PlayStation 4 on the left. This is the one that's been fixed here. But if you look here now, let me just do a tiny bit of gameplay just to show you. And this is a disc-based game. This is Gran Turismo Sport, so obviously the disc size of things are working fine. Yeah, it all appears to be fine. This is on 1080p. and there doesn't seem to be any kind of glitches or anything. It seems to be working nice. The picture is very, very, very nice. So yeah, for me it was quite a painful fix because it went on for so long and I had to repeat so many things, and now I'm probably going to have 6, 7, 8 hours of footage to edit down, so that's another day gone, and I've already spent the best part of 2 days on this. Not full time 2 days, but many hours on both days. So yeah, it's been quite painful, but saying that, I have now learned a lot more about PlayStation 4 HDMI cables, which HDMI ports, which is good. So let me just undo this one and plug in this one, and you will see that this one is still working. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, I now know in the future to pay much more attention to those filters, how to test them, look out for shorts and stuff like that, and mainly look for continuity between the actual chip all the way to the HDMI port. So I think now if I have another one, I think I'll be a lot quicker at fault finding it, and I won't just think it's the chip over and over again. As it turns out, I put one of the faulty chips that I took off here onto this one, and it's working absolutely fine. So those 4 or 5 chip changes that I did were not necessary. It was probably, to begin with, one of the filters that was faulty, and also the capacitor was missing as well. I don't know whether that was done by me. I'll soon find out when I edit the video back, but at long last I got there in the end, which is the main thing, and I learnt along the way. So hopefully you did enjoy the video. Apologies for the length of it. I will try to get it down to about an hour or something, or whatever I can get it down to without losing the content of the video. But if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe for more Trying to Fix videos. Take care. Bye now.